If you've ever wanted to make a video game in JavaScript, you've come to the right place.
Yeah.
Recently, we took part in a web page creation contest organized by Wix Studio and Newform Community, where we won 3rd place. The theme of the contest was Studio Ghibli, so we decided to create not only a website inspired by Studio Ghibli's spirit world, but also a JavaScript video game based on the same theme. The result is this mini-game where you can move the main character from the movie Spirited Away through a small enchanted forest to catch as many kodamas as you can in 60 seconds. This mini-game is made in JavaScript using the 3.js library and is hosted on the Wix Studio platform. This is the first of several videos where I'll show you step by step how to create this video game from scratch. To follow these tutorials, you need to have at least a basic understanding of the JavaScript language. But don't worry, I'll try to explain everything as simply as possible so it's easy to understand. I'll also show you how to get the resources for the video game, how to modify and create the environment in Blender, and how to import everything into JavaScript to finally publish it on Wix. It's worth mentioning that this tutorial doesn't aim to explain how to create a video game professionally, because I'm just starting out in this field myself. The purpose of these videos is to explain my process to you, and then you can decide if you want to follow this path to create a similar or identical video game. Without further ado, let's get started. The first thing is to open a code editor. You can use whichever one you like. If you don't have a code editor yet, I recommend using Visual Studio Code. To install it, visit the website you see on the screen. Download the correct version for your operating system and follow the installation instructions. It's very easy. Once you open the code editor, create a folder called Tutorial and another folder called Assets. Inside the tutorial folder, create another folder called 01, and there you're going to create a file named index.html, as well as another one named game.js. Now let's write the header of the web page. We'll define some basic settings like the title of the web page, set up the page's viewport, and add some basic styling with CSS. Now let's add the body of the web page. We need to add a script of type import map to tell the browser where to find our game's dependencies. Let's add the latest version of 3.js available at the time we're making this video. Finally, we add a script with the path to our main JavaScript file, game.js. Now let's go to the game.js file and import the 3 object from the 3.js library and the orbit controls object to control the camera with the computer mouse. Now let's create the main class for the game. We add the constructor and call the function to initialize the game. Now we create the initialization function and set up the render element, which is responsible for rendering the 3D scene. We also make some initial configurations related to how shadows will be displayed in the game, the pixel ratio, and the screen size. Now we add the renderer to the web page and create a listener to detect when the device window is resized. Now let's define some parameters for our camera. We define the focal point, the aspect ratio, the nearest visible distance, the farthest visible distance, and we create a perspective camera and set its initial position. Now we set up our orbit controls to control the camera with the computer mouse. We define where it should be pointing at the beginning. Now we define a clock property that will be useful later for animations. We define the main scene, add an ambient light, and add it to the scene. Now let's add a cube to our scene. First, we define its geometry and the type of material. We're going to give it a green color so it's visible. Finally, we add it to the scene. Now we define the function that will run in a loop to animate our scene. We'll create it later. Next, we create the function, a window resize, which will tell the browser how to redefine the aspect ratio of the scene if the window size changes. Now let's create the update function, which will be responsible for running in the loop and updating the scene at every moment. That's where we'll update the controls and the renderer. We'll also update the diagnostics of our scene to perform debugging. Finally, we're going to add a listener so that when the web page finishes loading, the game starts. Now, to see your progress, you need to open the page on a local server. As you can see here, I have the Live Server plugin installed in Visual Studio. If you want to install the plugin, open the Plugins section and search for Live Server. I recommend the one you see on the screen. When you're here, just click on Install. After that, you'll be able to test the game locally in your browser. All you have to do is click on Go Live and the plugin will open your project in the browser. Now just look for the index.html file, and you should see a green cube like the one on the screen.
It's a cube.
If you hold the cube with the left mouse button, you can rotate it in different directions. Now let's try to change the black background to a skybox in the style of Studio Ghibli. In the Assets folder, you need to add a Textures folder, then open the website I'll leave in the description of this video, where you can download this background. Once you've downloaded it, move the image to the Textures folder in your project. Now you need to look in your code for the part where you add the green cube to the scene, and right before that, add the following. Here, we're telling the browser to load the texture we just downloaded and assign it to the environment and the background of the main scene. Save your changes and refresh your browser, and you'll see how the background now stretches out in all directions of the scene. If you want, you can comment out the part where you add the cube, since we don't need it anymore. Now you have this beautiful Studio Ghibli-style panorama. Remember, this is just the first part of a video series where I'll show you how I made this Studio Ghibli-inspired video game. So make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Goodbye.